one thing that we wanted to try to do kind of as we get started, we're going to see if we can make this work. But we are doing our topic this evening on beet pulp. And so one thing that we wanted to do was kind of show you guys basically in person, I guess, soaking some beet pulp shreds throughout the Facebook Live. And then we're going to kind of see how it looks at the end of the live. So we'll check back in on it. So right now, I'm going to go over and see if I can make this work for you guys. But we have measured out 3¼ cups of beet pulp shreds, which is about a half a pound. And so we're going to do 2-to-1 parts water in that. And so I've measured that all out, but I'm going to go show you guys what it looks like right now. I'm not going to be by the mic. So we will pop this up and see if we can make this work for everybody.
Do it side on so we can see.
On the side?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see a little bit there. It's a kind of a big bucket for it.
It's a big clear bucket. Put your hand in there for reference. There,
hand.
Katie's beautiful hand. And that's beet pulp shreds, so it's a little darker than the pellets that are all ground up. Putting some water in there. I know that most people will usually do a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio of water to beet pulp. We are doing a 2-to-1 tonight, water to beet pulp ratio.
Okay, so that's what it looks like
and
right
we're
now.
starting it off soaking. Yeah.
So we'll just come back here at the end of the Facebook Live. We'll come back at the end of the Facebook Live and we'll show you guys kind of the end results of that. Just wanted to try something a little different and show you guys a little bit about what we're talking about tonight.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay.
So you go ahead. I was going to.
Okay, so just a reminder, if you guys wouldn't mind right now going ahead and sharing this Facebook Live on your page right now, because it will give you an opportunity to win some Standlee free product coupons. Make sure that the post is public so we can see and make a note of it. But go ahead and share this right now to your Facebook page so others can kind of check it out, come join us, ask some questions about beet pulp. And we're going to have a short survey at the end as well that we would really love to kind of get your guys' feedback on the Facebook Live, the content of it. If there's something that you would rather see in a future live, it just helps us kind of improve these for you guys. And then we're going to give away some other additional free product coupons at the end just for being here and joining us tonight, and especially just showing up. So for those of you who are on, do you guys listen to the Beyond the Barn podcast? Let us know in the comments if you've listened before, if you haven't yet, but you've heard of it and you were interested in listening to it. Just kind of give us an idea of who's joining us tonight. Dr. Cubitt and I are co-hosts of the Beyond the Barn podcast. And we have just released recently episodes 71 and 72. And those are, we have our guest, Dr. Michelle DeBoer, who joined us for those episodes on horse blanketing. She talked a lot about some of the research that she's been involved with in around horse blanketing, but then also we go into management tips and things like that to basically, if you decide to blanket your horse, doing it in a way that's going to be safe for your horse and just be the best for their well-being throughout the winter months. And so if you haven't listened to those, that's episodes 71 and 72. Go check those out. Episode 72 just released this week. And we'll be on a break in a couple of weeks for the Christmas holiday season. And we will be back joining you guys on Tuesday, January 2nd, with a new episode in the new year. So my background is I grew up on a small beef cattle operation in Central Oregon. And I received degrees at the University of Idaho in agribusiness and animal science production. So that's kind of my background. And I have been with Standlee for 7.5 years now, working on a lot of their nutritional education and things like that, and some of these projects that we do with you guys and with Dr. Cubitt and Dr. Duran. So Dr. Cubitt, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm originally from Australia, if you can't already hear that in my voice. I moved here in 2001 and did a master's and PhD at Virginia Tech in equine nutrition. My master's was in growth and my PhD in reproduction and nutrition. And then went to work with a company called Performance Horse Nutrition, and we're a consulting company that work all around the world with hay companies, feed companies, supplement companies. Standlee is the hay company that we work with and help do trainings like this, work with dealers, work with product development. So I'm excited to be here and talk about beet pulp because I know that a lot of people have questions. Some people love it, some people don't. So we are just going to try and give you all the facts, and then you can make the best decision for your horse.
Right. And so, one question that we kind of wanted to ask you guys before we got into bringing your questions in is, do you feed beet pulp currently? And if you do, let us know if you feed shreds or pellets. Maybe you're on tonight because you don't currently feed, but you're interested in learning more. Whatever kind of is your journey right now, go ahead and comment that below. Let us know who we have joining us tonight to give us a better picture of our audience this evening and how we want to make sure that we help you guys out tonight.
So far, we've got mostly, 3 pellets and 2 shreds so far.
Okay.
Pellets again. I think that,
A little bit of
just from
both.
what I see going to barns, probably more people are familiar with pellets, but shreds are also available. But I think most people are familiar with the pellets.
Right. Could you touch on maybe briefly just I guess, the difference between the pellets and the shreds? Um, just to kind of get some,
Yeah.
because I've noticed there's some new people that haven't actually, they don't quite feed it. And so they're
Mhm.
kind of thinking about maybe what they might want to choose.
Yeah, it's just like we have different we have long stem hay, we have cubed hay, we have pelleted hay. It all has the same nutritional content if it was made from the same original forage product, but it's just about either the mechanics of the horse consuming that. So long stem hay, obviously really long fiber length, and then as you get smaller and smaller, the fiber length gets smaller. That is the same with beet pulp shreds versus pellets. Shreds is literally like grating a carrot, right? And you have grated sections of that raw ingredient that is then dehydrated. But the pellets is more, you put the carrot in a blender and you made mush out of it, and then you squeezed it through a die to make that pellet. So I would say fiber length is obviously much, much smaller in a pellet because it's ground up. And when you wet it, it will dissolve into more of a mush versus the shreds will dissolve into those kind of pieces of beet pulp. So um, both have a place. I would say if you have a horse that has very poor dentition and you would like to add beet pulp to their diet for a multitude of reasons, then I would lean more towards the beet pulp pellets because, like I said, you can make a mash out of it. If you have a younger horse, it has perfectly fine teeth, but you're trying to improve the forage quality, or using beet pulp because it is a prebiotic, so it's good for gut health, or maybe for a little weight gain, then the shreds. But also, it comes down to what is the most conveniently available for you. Both of them have the same nutritional value.
Excellent. And also, I know I kind of touched on this earlier, but how many cups of shreds do you think is in a pound? Go ahead and comment. And how many cups of pellets do you think is in a pound? We just kind of want to, we're going to share this with you, but we want to kind of gauge your thoughts on this kind of as we get started here to see what you guys think. If anybody has an idea, or if you're not quite sure, go ahead and add in which you think weighs more, I guess, pellets or the shreds. Okay, we have a few coming in. 7 cups for shreds, 5 cups for pellets, 4 cups, close to a pound.
And I would put in the preface is where we are measuring dry weight, pre-soaking.
Yes. Yep. We're not going to be weighing it before the water's in there. So, oh, we're not going to be weighing it after the water's in. So, yes. Okay, excellent. Thanks for sharing, everybody. Dr. Cubitt, would you like to touch on that a little bit?
Why don't you tell us, because you just measured it. So
You want
you
me to
tell
do
us
it?
the answer. Yeah, you tell us the answer and
Sure.
then I'll.
So, and obviously, this is going to vary slightly, right? Depending on your measuring unit. So, this is the one that I was using today. It's a 1 cup, and the line's right there. So, depending on if you end up having a 1 cup measurement that you scoop or anything like that, pellets kind of take up a little bit more space in the way that they are as well, versus the shreds. So, we have our pellets there. But the shreds came out to be about 6.5 cups in a pound. Now, give and take slightly, right? That's why we always encourage measuring, weighing our feed. And then the pellets came out to be about 3.5 cups for a pound. So,
Perfect. Okay, I would also, while I'm talking, because I'm going to talk about one of the primary reasons people add beet pulp to the diet, but I would love to ask another question. Those that do feed beet pulp, I know one person commented, tell me how much you're adding to your horse's diet per day. And I want to know pre-soaked, obviously. I want to know dry weight. We've been talking about cups. You can use cups or pounds. Um, a scoop means not a lot to me, so let's not use the word scoop because you could have any kind of scoop. But if we use cups or pounds and just estimate, but how much are people feeding? That would be neat. And while we're writing that in, Katie, why don't you throw up that slide? One of the primary reasons that people tell me that they add beet pulp to their diet, horse's diet, is for weight gain. And what I have done is over the years, everybody uses something different for measuring, for adding weight to their horse's diet. Um, and oats is a common one, rice bran is a common one, beet pulp, um, alfalfa hay, fat in the form of oil. These are all common ingredients that people add to add weight to a horse. And I like all of them for different reasons, but each one also has a place. And so what I have done is based on the nutrient requirements and how much extra calories it takes to put weight on a horse. Let's say we're using a standard measure and we're going from one body condition score to the next. We're going from a 4 to a 5 or a 5 to a 6 on that 1 to 9 body condition scoring system. That's going to take about 45 to 50 pounds of gain on a 1,000-pound animal. Now, that we can do that safely in about 60 days, right? 2 months. Of course, you can do it quicker, but the faster you do it, the more you have to feed, the more you run the risk of colic. And we can always do it slower, but nobody wants to do anything slow. So let's just say right now you're feeding your horse maybe 3 pounds of grain and 15, 20 pounds of hay, and he's not losing weight, he's not gaining weight, he's maintaining. And we know that we want him to gain weight. So we know we need an additional level of calories. We know it's 6.6 megacals per day that we need in addition. And if we look down this list here, you can see oats have a calorie content about 1.5 megacals per pound. Rice bran is about 1.5 megacals per pound, but you know, between those two, rice bran is really fluffy, so volume-wise, that's quite a lot. If we look at beet pulp, it's about 1.27 megacals per pound. Doesn't matter whether it's shreds or um, or pellets, it's per pound, right? Not volume. Alfalfa hay, about 1.1 megacals per pound, and oil is 4.6. So of course, oil is very calorie dense. We all know that. And then the next column over. So if you were choosing any of these to add weight to your horse, how much additional would you have to feed of that ingredient? And so if we focus on beet pulp, because that's the question of the day, you would have to feed about 5.5, it's 5.2, but we'd round up, 5.2 mega pounds of beet pulp that's dry per day on top of your existing feed to get that weight gain, to get that 50 pounds, 45 to 50 pounds of weight gain. So you can see beet pulp isn't as calorie dense as potentially some people think. I like to use it as a part of my weight gain program. But I also will throw in some other higher fat maybe ingredients. Um, but I think what this is just showing you is just know exactly what you're working with and have clear expectations of what it's going to do. I love beet pulp because it's got a whole slew of other benefits to it. But if we're looking at using pellets and 3.5 cups to a pound, and I said we'd need 5 pounds, then we have to do the math here because I'm terrible at math. I would say 3.5 times 5, we're looking at 17.5 cups of beet pulp pellets to put significant weight gain on. So it's not saying that beet pulp is not great for weight gain, but it is a part of your program.
Excellent. Yeah, that was some great information. We just kind of wanted to get you guys started on that. We thought that was a little bit of an interesting tidbit to share with you all, especially if you're using, beet pulp with a purpose like that to help with gain weight and things like that. So we would love to be able to hear from you guys now. And since we got a little bit of a late start, let us know if you are okay with us going maybe an extra 10 or 15 minutes longer to allow you guys some more time to get your questions in. I want to be able to respect everybody's time, especially with the time frame that we put in for this Facebook Live. So give us some feedback on that, and that way we can start taking your guys' questions. Um, let's see. And if anybody's like, no, I have to get off by this point, let us know. But okay, so far we're hearing yes, it's okay. So we're gonna add some time in here just to make sure that we're getting you guys all your questions and that we can. I know some of these questions might be a little bit more general, just questions about beet pulp. But if you do start getting more specific about your animal, your situation, please give us the best and the most amount of details that you can, right? So we're talking about when we're weighing our beet pulp, not to use scoops, but let us know, how much in weight you're actually feeding, things like that. Your situation, is your horse underweight? Are they overweight? Maybe kind of their activity level, anything that you can think of that might be able to help Dr. Cubitt answer the question as best as she can. Let us know, and then just take this all with a grain of salt as well, right? Because your situation may not fit everybody else's, and your horse is different from everybody else's horse. So, this is an opportunity for us to kind of gain knowledge and learn, but always be sure to work with your veterinarian and your nutritionist before making any kind of, drastic changes to your horse's feed program. So, let's get going. I know we have some questions coming in. So, see if I can find some of these. Okay, let's see. We're going to pop this one up. Amanda said that you just mentioned colic. Can beet pulp uh, pellets maybe when you
I
add it to
maybe
when you add it to a horse who is sensitive to colic and ulcers?
maybe it says help. I think that's
Oh,
what she's
help.
saying.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go with help. That makes the most sense. So, can beet pulp help when you add it to a horse's diet sensitive colic and ulcers? Um, well, I would say anytime you're adding anything new to the diet, do it gradually. And that's because the microbiome, those bugs, take a full 21 days to adjust to new types of food. And if you throw anything in there that they're not used to, then they will get upset, create a little excess gas, can cause gas colic. That aside, anytime you can add calories from fats and fibers and not sugars and not grains that are high in sugars and starches, then that certainly will help help with gastric ulcers and those that are sensitive to colic.
Excellent. Okay. Let's Okay. Okay. Would you add oats to help balance calcium and phosphorus ratio? What ratio of oats to beet pulp?
Wow, wow. It depends on the horse. Obviously, oats are high in phosphorus and beet pulp is high in calcium. Um, but if you have a horse that has IR or any of the metabolic issues, then you probably aren't going to add oats to the diet. And I would say, based on reading how much beet pulp people are adding to the diet, even though um, beet pulp is higher in calcium, you're not going to unbalance the calcium phosphorus ratio by adding the quantity. Like, I don't think anybody was even really feeding a pound, eating feeding much more than a couple of pounds of beet pulp shreds or pellets a dry weight. Remember, alfalfa is really high in calcium too, so you don't nobody's like adding oats to balance out their alfalfa. So I I would not be adding oats to balance out the beet pulp calcium. I wouldn't be adding wheat bran or anything else that was high in phosphorus to balance it out because I don't think that you're altering the calcium phosphorus ratio enough to worry about doing that.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So my senior mare gets 3/4 of a pound at lunch for a different fiber source, and to add water to her supplements. My gelding gets less than a half at lunch as a supplement carrier as well.
Excellent. That's fine. Now, you mentioned supplements, hoping that if they're not getting a concentrated feed like a ration balancer, that those supplements include a vitamin and mineral supplement. But that sounds fine. That is one of the reasons why I like beet pulp, whether it's in a commercial feed or in a separate bag, is that it does offer diversity in fiber type. And if you've listened to us for any of our podcasts or Facebook Lives, and we talk about the hindgut health, we talk about that microbiome and all those different bugs and how they really do need a variety of different fiber types. Look, I'm wearing a sweater. It is cold where most of us are. Beet pulp is also excellent this time of year just to get more hydration into the horse. We know that impaction colic is one of the things that we struggle with when the horses are eating dry fiber and it gets cooler and they're drinking a little less water. And just in that transition from warmer to cooler weather, impaction colic can be a problem. So adding beet pulp, even seasonally, wet is a great idea. I can't hear you, Katie.
Thank you. Okay. Julie said, I was told to add soaked beet pulp for my IR horse. He's on a specific medication, and beet pulp was recommended to help with triglyceride numbers that can rise on this
Medication. Yeah. Okay.
medication.
So the thing is, if you again, how much are you feeding? And because the reason I'm assuming somebody recommended that you soak the beet pulp and then, pour the water out was to decrease sugar and starch content. What you need to know is what is the product that you're buying? Like, what is the sugar? What is the content of those structural carbohydrates at the very beginning? And the gold standard is at 10% or less for a horse with insulin resistance. That's for the total diet, though. So, um, you know, you should be soaking your hay at the same time, but we always want to know what you're starting with. If you're starting with something that's already 7% sugars and starches and we're not feeding much of it anyway, then no, I wouldn't say that you would need to soak, pour, wet again, that beet pulp. But it each to their own, whatever you want to do. But as far as, when we talk about soaking hay to leach out sugars and starches, we're wetting it, we're letting it sit, we're leaching out those sugars and starches, we're dumping that water out, and then we're feeding to the horse. And when we talk about soaking beet pulp, it's really just to hydrate it so that the horse can chew it and get more hydration in the gut. And what you're saying is you want to wet it, dump it, wet it again. It depends on what you're starting with.
Can you speak just a little bit to,
Oh, my nose
I
is
know we were
itchy.
talking about this a little bit earlier, but when, some of those horses that are more sensitive to sugars and starches, and we're looking at that whole diet, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
we can get caught up with looking at individual ingredients
Oh,
and,
yeah.
those numbers and everything. But can you talk to everybody a little bit about, looking at that whole diet?
Hmm. Absolutely. You really need to take into account the whole diet. And what I mean is you're feeding your horse hay, you're feeding him, and maybe, we've got people that are feeding Beet Pulp, and maybe you're feeding a concentrate, something from a bag, a ration balancer, or even a low carb feed. And then you've got and maybe some additional supplements. Supplements I really don't factor in because you're feeding in such a low quantity anyway, maybe 1 or 2 ounces. But if they were higher, then you could look at those. But you need to work out, okay, so let's say we've got 20 pounds, I'm writing this down, 20 pounds of hay, and we're going a pound of beet pulp, and we're doing 1 pound of ration balancer. Then we would want to work out, okay, the hay, maybe that's, I don't know, 10% sugars and starches. So we want to work out what is 10% of 20 pounds. And then we've got a ration balancer, and most ration balancers may be like 16%. And you would say, oh my God, that's way too high. But what is 16% of 1 pound? And then we take our beet pulp, and I can tell you if we're doing the Standlee pellets, that's 7%. Um, and so we take 7% of 1 pound, and then we get that actual number so we've gotten an actual amount in pounds, and we're going to divide that by 22 and times it by 100 to get the actual percentage in the total diet. Like we can go back and do a bit of high school math. It's not the individual ingredients by themselves. It's the total diet. And I will tell you that for most of us, unless you've got a senior horse that cannot chew hay, the largest portion of your horse's diet is the hay. We need to know what we're feeding. So getting a hay test is very, very important if you have, and not focusing on 1 pound of beet pulp or 1 pound of ration balancer when you haven't tested your hay. So that's kind of my TED talk about sugars and starches in the total diet.
Right. Okay.
I probably can't say that. It's probably trademarked to say TED talk, but
Natalie says, does Stanley Beet Pulp have any other nutritional value that the other brands don't?
I can tell you that Standlee, I can only talk to Standlee Beet Pulp. And I would say that nutritional value, I can tell you that our pellets have, say, 7% sugars and starches. The shreds are about 10%. I can tell you the nutritional content of owls, the calcium, phosphorus, protein, that kind of thing. And this is a raw ingredient. It is not a synthetic manufactured ingredient. So if somebody is harvesting beets from a different field that's been um, managed under different conditions, then those numbers might vary slightly. And quality control is another thing that you have to be cautious of when you're buying raw ingredients. Making sure that it's clean, it's not dirty, that the beet pulps come out of the ground, so we make sure that they're being washed and that kind of thing. So as far as nutritional value, beet pulp should all be fairly similar, but you need to make sure you need to contact the manufacturer from whatever brand you're using.
Yes. And Deborah would like to know, can it help a non complete senior food be a complete food?
Okay, when we use the term complete, when we're referring to equine feeds, the correct terminology is that a complete feed would then be one that you do not have to feed any hay and pasture with, right? Because the senior horse that a complete feed is designed for is one that has poor teeth and can't chew long stem hay anymore and maintain his body weight. So that 1.5 to 2.5% of their body weight in dry fiber that they must eat per day, doesn't matter their age or their dentition, needs to now come in the bag of food. So I would not just rely on beet pulp. I would use beet pulp, and I would use alfalfa, and I would use Timothy pellets. I would use a variety of different fiber types with my senior feed to make it a complete feed.
Excellent. And Joe would like to know, Joe says, my 37-year-old mare gets a 14, 8,
14%, 8% fat pelleted
8%.
feed.
Okay. Pelleted feed, 4 pounds, and a cup of rice bran, plus soaked alfalfa cubes twice a day. She had a good body condition and hair quote here in north central Arkansas. She can no longer adequately chew Bermuda hay. Would beet pulp shreds have any value here?
Absolutely. I mean, if she can't adequately chew Bermuda hay anymore, then number one, I would say, okay, is there a chopped forage that I could find, or is there um, a hay that is a little easier for her to chew, or maybe she can't chew any hay? Adding beet pulp shreds would certainly have some value. But I would also say, okay, if her teeth are really bad, I don't know how bad her teeth are, then maybe you would want to go with the beet pulp pellets because you can wet them and make a mash out of it. But um, yes, could certainly be a beneficial.
Sorry, muted again. Before we go on to the next question, I wanted to go ahead and show, because it's actually been about 30 minutes since we started soaking the beet pulp shreds. Generally, we usually recommend about 15 to 30 minutes. And so I kind of want you guys to see what it looks like at this point. So I'm going to go over here and show you.
And while she's showing you, I'm going to give my spiel on soaking. Soaking anything when you're trying to increase that, when you're trying to um, make it better for the horse to chew or eat, whether it be pellets, senior feed, or beet pulp, it all depends on your horse's dentition. But make sure that when you put it in front of your horse, it's in a soupy like consistency, right? And this is really important when it comes to pellets. The shreds don't do it as much, but the pellets, if you soak them, let's say we had 1 cup of pellets and we put 3 cups of water in there, and then we left it overnight because we were trying to meal prep, the next morning, I guarantee it's just going to be this dry, kind of fine, hard mass. You need to make sure that when you're giving it to your horse, it is in a soupy like consistency. And then it takes out all of the like how long you want to do it for, it doesn't matter. And how much water you want to do, it doesn't matter as long as you're giving it to your horse in a soupy consistency.
Excellent. That was a great ad for that. I'm going to go
Here,
ahead and pull the.
I want to answer Joe's question, Katie. I you know, we were talking about this earlier. So Joe Langston has a question there.
A new one?
It's near the bottom. It's near the bottom for me anyway. I can read it out and you might be able to find it. My doctor told me to pour the water off my laminitic mare's beet pulp. And I could never find beet pulp without molasses. She's in Arkansas, but I know it is available in other states. Here's what I'll say again. What we want to do is we want to just ask, what is the sugar content of the beet pulp that you're feeding? And if it's less than 10%, it doesn't matter whether it's got a small amount of molasses on it. It is still within the very reasonable sugar and starch range to feed your metabolic horse. And they'll probably like it better too. So we have to be not kind of saying, "Oh no, I can't feed beet pulp because that one's got some molasses on it." If that beet pulp that's got a tiny bit of molasses on it is still less than 10% in sugars and starches, it is perfect for your metabolic course. Um, so again, it comes down to the numbers. It comes down to the sugars and starches. Is it less than 10%? Good to go.
And following up to what Dr. Cubitt is saying is this shouldn't be an issue with the Standlee Smart Beat. And so if you go to our website at standlee.com and go find our store locator, you can see what stores carry our products. If you haven't been into one and checked it out before, maybe call ahead, see what they have available. But sometimes you can always, if they don't have something that you need, if there's enough of you that are asking for it, they can bring in some of those products. So keep that
Yeah.
in mind as well. Let's see. Okay. Gail would like to know, is it okay to add the beet pulp with the alfalfa pellets and the 6 pounds of grain a day with a
Perfect.
horse with bad teeth?
Perfect. 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 Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Donna says, can a slightly overweight horse have beet pulp added to their diet and have the grain be reduced?
Yes and no. As long as when you're reducing the concentrate portion of the diet, which we're terming grain here, that we're not going below the recommended feeding directions. Okay, so if the bag says you have to feed 3 pounds a day in order to get all the vitamins and minerals, and you want to add beet pulp, and that means you're feeding 2.5 pounds of the grain, then no, we're shortchanging the horse on vitamins and minerals, and the beet pulp is not a source of vitamins and minerals, so that would not be a good idea. What I would say is if you want to do that, find a grain or a concentrate that is designed to be fed at the feeding rate that you're going to go to, which is probably more likely going to be a ration balancer, which is 1 pound a day, feeding rate to that 1,000-pound horse, and then you can put your beet pulp in.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. Cassie would like to know, should I give beet pulp pellets to my 18-year-old mare with early onset Cushing's instead of grain? She's on medication for Cushing's and fed 20 pounds of alfalfa. She does not eat the leaves, only the stems of alfalfa. Her vet wants her to have less calories and more fiber. My mare does not want to eat her low carb grain or grass pellets anymore. I'm giving her 2 to 4 pounds of low sugar grass hay when I get to go see her.
Okay. Yeah, okay, she's getting I would not be feeding her 20 pounds of alfalfa if I wanted her to have less calories. I know she's only eating the stems, but I would be switching her to more of a grass hay. I know the alfalfa is low in sugars and starches and she's pre-Cushing's, but I would be saying, can we give her more of the low sugar grass hay and less of the alfalfa because there's a lot of calories there. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, beet pulp's great, alfalfa's great, but they are higher in calories than your grass hays or your um, lower carb options. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to reduce calories in the diet or reduce body weight on your horse and you're not able to exercise them more, then it's kind of like people. If you're trying to lose weight, and you're really
Then you
trying
have to
hard,
cut
even a
back.
cookie, even just a little cookie or a little, every little adds up and makes a big
Yeah.
pile.
And I'm wondering too if in this situation, obviously this is speculation, but like if the horse is also getting some of both right now, alfalfa and the grass pellets, there's a possibility that maybe because they want to eat the alfalfa, they're just gonna be like, I'm not gonna even bother with the pellets. So maybe,
Hmm.
take, I mean, obviously we got to transition, right? We don't want to be switching it over anything quickly, but I'm wondering, how that would look if, the only offering was that that lower sugar grass hay, the warmer grasses.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of see where you're going, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
So there is another one there that follows up from my comment about the wet pellets. Rosemary said it's interesting to have soaked pellets more wet. Are you suggesting there just isn't enough water to start with, or would there be only partially soaked pellets? No, it's more that, when I give a recommendation or we write on the bag, oh, you should have 3 parts water to 1 part pellets, and you only need to do it for 15 minutes. You can get into trouble because what if you're in a really dry area or a dry climate and then, the pellets are already super dry and they're sucking up all the moisture. Or you're in a really humid environment and then, you don't need so much. So it's more like I want to take all the guesswork about how much, how long, and it's more just the consistency that you provide it to your horse. And it's really more for horses that are naive to pellets or beet pulp. That you just want to do that slow transition at the beginning, and you want to make sure that it's really soupy when you give it to them first, so that you don't ever have any issues. Interesting, yeah. So
Okay, Shelley says my donkeys and pony only get grass hay with the beet pulp pellet, and when I feed the soaked 4 cups beet pulp pellet, I add 1 cup of the all-purpose pellet to flavor it. I know donkeys can't have too much sugar, so I was told the pellet helps them metabolize any sugars they might eat, but they have gotten really fat. Even though they only get a small amount of what I feed, the pony gets most of it.
Yeah, beet pulp's great, but I would say your horse probably should have teff pellets. Um, your pony and donkey maybe need a lower calorie option because they've gotten fat. I'm not sure what the all-purpose pellet is that you're referring to, um, in that it would help them metabolize sugars. I'm not really following that logic, but um, I would say you've got pretty high calorie ingredients there. They're all great ingredients, but they're a little too high calorie for the horses, your animals you're feeding, and you've noticed they've gotten fat. So let's try to find some lower calorie options that also fit into that kind of low sugar, and that's teff. You want more information about teff, go on our website, and we have a bunch of information about teff, but it's a low calorie option.
Okay, Jennifer asks, is it safe to soak overnight?
In Florida or Texas in the middle of summer, absolutely not. It's going to be a stinking fly-ridden mess in the morning. In Wisconsin in the middle of winter, it might be a frozen block tomorrow night. So expand the question out. In the summertime, nah, probably not a great idea to soak overnight. In the wintertime, yeah, if it's in a kind of climate controlled feed room. But I would also say that make sure that when you're coming back in the morning, that it's not just a fully hydrated but kind of stiff mass. We still want to make sure that it's a little bit wet and soupy when you're providing it to the animal.
Excellent. Okay. So we're gonna kind of start winding down a little bit. We went a little bit over, and I still want to be able to be respectful to everybody's time and everything. But we wanted to let you know that this recording is going to be available for you to watch tomorrow, back on our Facebook page, and then next week it's going to be put up on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and reference it. You can share it with your friends if there's anything that you wanted to go back and listen to again. If there is, if you guys have any other questions, we may not have gotten to quite all of them. If we didn't get to them, please feel free to reach out to us. Join our uh, Facebook page, Facebook group page, The Life We Live, Ride, and Love. And we'll throw that in the comments so you guys can click on it and go to it. This would be a good opportunity for you guys to jump in there. And then Dr. Cubitt can sometimes answer some one-on-one questions there, with a little bit more smaller, engaged crowd. And so join us for that. A couple other things that I just want to mention. If you guys have not had the opportunity to do so yet, we are actually have a free shipping discount on Standlee treats for those participating in our quiz right now. So which treat flavor fits your horse's personality? We'll throw this into the comments as well, so you can click on it and go check it out. But you can get free shipping on your treat order if you go ahead and complete that quiz. And the offer expires December 31st of this year. And it'll be good for alfalfa forage bites, appleberry cookie cubes, and the horse pill carriers. If you haven't had a chance to check any of those out yet, this would be a great opportunity to do that. So visit Standlee.com to be able to find that. And one other thing that I want to note, I don't know if we have any veterinarians or vet techs or vet students joining us tonight, but we do have our second annual equine veterinarian nutrition seminar that is coming up. It's actually starting in just a couple of days, and it's going to be available December 8th through January 26th of 2024. And so this is for equine focused practitioners, the vet techs, vet students, and these are race-approved presentations that we are offering. Dr. Duran and our very own Dr. Cubitt is a part of that, as well as Dr. Herbst. So 4 hours of CE credits are going to be available for that. So share that with your veterinarian or your friends or that are kind of in that field. And that'll be really a great thing for them to check out. The last thing I kind of want to also mention is to complete our survey at the end of this. Give us some feedback on the Facebook Live, what you'd like to see different. If there's any specific topic that you would like us to cover coming into 2024, this is our last Facebook Live of this year. Go ahead and let us know, because the more that you guys give us feedback on what you want to hear about, the better job that we can do in helping you and helping your animals in what you guys are trying to accomplish in your goals. So without further ado, I guess we just have our winners. So thank you to Deborah Barber for sharing our Facebook Live with your friends today. Deborah, if you could just reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we add this into the comments as well, though, at podcast@standlee.com. So we can get in contact with you, get you your coupons. And then also our additional winner is, I don't know if it's Sarah Anna Saran McKellar. Please, apologies if I mispronounced that, but thank you for being here tonight. You also are winning some free Standlee coupons. So send us an email at podcast@standlee.com. And Dr. Cubitt, is there anything else that you would like to add before we end our evening?
No, but I do see some great questions that came in late that I would love to answer. We're going to put them on the Facebook group. Join our group and we'll answer them there.
Yes, please join the group, The Life We Live, Ride, and Love. And we would love to be able to kind of work with you guys on those questions. So thank you all for joining us this evening. We sure appreciate your time and energy that you had to come and join us tonight. So until next time, thanks, Dr. Cubitt.
Thank you.